Hello, and welcome to the Trappings and Trinkets podcast. I'm your host, Nicole. And if you are a regular viewer of this podcast, you might have been thinking, it's been a really long time since I've seen Nicole. Yes, it has. Oh, I have stories. If you are a new viewer, thank you for stopping by, and you're going to hear a lot of stories today. There are going to be some crafts interspersed with the stories, but it's a lot of stories. So I think I put out a podcast in early July, like one of the first couple days of July, I think was the last time I published. So I have no idea. This is like episode 30 something. Might be 37, 38, 39. It's somewhere in there. I put out a podcast, and then I was thinking I would put one out after the second weekend in July, because we were going to have a big weekend. So my birthday is the second week of July. And on my birthday, well, actually it was the night before my birthday. So the night before my birthday, I was reading a book called Not My Father's Son, and it's written by Alan Cumming. You might know him as Eli from The Good Wife, like the lawyer guy, or campaign manager / lawyer. Or you might know him, he's like the guy that hosts Masterpiece Mystery on PBS, so you might know him from that. He's a Scottish actor, although on The Good Wife, you wouldn't know he's Scottish. He just does a regular, very American accent. But anyway, he's more of an actor than a singer, although he has been in some musicals. Anyway, he wrote this book. Now, I've had this book on my Kindle for like, I don't know, at least a year. It's been a while. But I knew it was kind of a heavy subject matter. It's called Not My Father's Son. I knew it was about his relationship with his abusive father. And so that wasn't like, I just wasn't really in the mood to take that on. The world is falling apart right now. So I didn't need to bring that into my entertainment realm as well. I've kind of fallen down a Alan Cumming rabbit hole this year. It started with his PBS cabaret special called Alan Cumming Sings Sappy Songs. And I know that I mentioned that on the podcast sometime in the winter. It is a really good collection of songs. He is not like the most trained singer, but he's a very good entertainer, and he's a very good singer. He has a very pleasant voice. He knows how to use it. And he's really, really entertaining. Good storyteller, good singer. The cabaret show is really enjoyable. And he put it out as an album as well. So I bought the album, and I know that I recommended it on the podcast. It's a mix of pop songs, musicals. I think there's an original composition by his music director on there. And that's about it. So anyway, so that kind of got me on the Alan Cumming train. And then when I read this book, I was like, oh, this is a really good book. And even though it is a heavy subject matter, it wasn't difficult to read. Now, I say that with the caveat of I am not a person who has experienced abuse personally. So if that is something that you have gone through yourself, then this might be a whole other situation for you. So for me, it was not a difficult book to read. His attitude about everything really does make it easier to read, because he's obviously a survivor of all of this. He's not someone who has stalled in life because of the very rough childhood that he survived. So that does make it easier to read, that all this is in hindsight. So anyway, I was about 3/4 of the way through the book, and somehow I think there was a link to his website, like somewhere in the book. And so I was like, well, I wonder what else I can learn about Alan Cumming. So this is the night before my birthday. So I'm in bed. It's probably 1 a.m. I'm clicking on the Alan Cumming website on my phone, and there's a little button that says, buy tickets to see Alan Cumming. So I'm like, well, let's see what Alan Cumming is up to. So I click that, and it brings me to a link, and one of the first shows listed there is up by Chicago. So I'm in Central Illinois. Chicago's like 2.5 hours away. And I knew the universe was conspiring to make me go to this concert. Well, two things. So first of all, it was at Ravinia, which it's a venue I really enjoy. It's an outdoor venue. There's a very large lawn, so you can get seats at a very reasonable price on the lawn. I want to say they're like $20 or something, and like real world famous people come and perform here, and you can go see them for $20. So it's a very reasonably priced venue. They also have a pavilion, a covered pavilion. When I looked at the weather forecast, because this is Monday that I'm looking at tickets, and this concert is on Friday. So I'm looking at the weather forecast for north of Chicago, and it's looking kind of iffy on Friday night. So I decided against the lawn. I thought if we're going to drive 3 hours, because it's north of Chicago, so it's probably three and a half hours from where I live. So I thought if I'm going to drive that far, I'm not going to get up there and then have it pour rain and have us like miserable on the lawn. So I'm going to buy the seats in the pavilion. Now there were like 2 or 3 seats that were still for sale. They were like way in the back of the pavilion, which is not necessarily bad. It's not that big a pavilion, so there really aren't any seats that I know of that would be bad seats. But it had been a while since I had been there, and I actually couldn't remember if there were like posts or any sort of like weird things that would block your view. And so I was a little nervous when I saw that there was a couple seats, but they were all like in this one little area in the back. And I thought, maybe these people that bought the other seats know something that I don't know. So I was a little nervous about getting those seats. But there was another option. So I did see that there were a couple rows very close to the front that still had tickets left, but they were VIP tickets. So I'm not normally a person that springs for the VIP tickets, but these were really good seats, and this is an entertainer that I know I will really enjoy. The VIP package came with a couple things that I thought would be fun, one of which is that after the concert, you went back to Club Cumming, and you got to meet Alan Cumming, and they, in the little description, they just said like fun and music and Alan Cumming. So I thought, I like fun and music and Alan Cumming, so this all sounded good. So I called up my husband's. I was like, I'm gonna spend more money than we normally spend on these concert tickets. Is that okay? Does this sound fun to you? And he was like, yeah, it's your birthday. Do whatever you want. And I was like, listen, I don't want to go there with a person that doesn't want to be there. I'm not going to spend this much money if you're going to be like super uncomfortable in this situation. He's like, no, it'll be fine. It'll be super weird, but it'll be fine. So I think we both had that same opinion of like, this will be weird, but maybe it'll be really fun. So we went up there. We had a really good time at the concert. Club Cumming was not really like a club. It was more like sitting in a meeting room at an office building with bottled water and some wine that they'll give you a couple glasses of this wine if you want it. And I believe there were also pretzels. And there was a bunch of bananas on the table. There was like chips and salsa and a bunch of bananas and some pretzels, or like, it was just like a weird, it was just weird. There was music, but it was like in this large office-y space. They had like a curtain, and then like on the other side of and it wasn't even like a curtain that completely cordoned off that area. It was just like a little bit of a curtain on the side so that it could be like a separate space. They had a dance area, but it was like just as brightly lit as the rest of the room. And it was like the bartender, I think, was playing her iPod on a speaker, or her phone on a speaker just over in that area. So like nobody was dancing. Alan Cumming was certainly not dancing. It was weird. We did get to meet him. We did get to take a picture with him. He was going around the room, like sitting down with different groups of people and talking for a few minutes. And so my husband and I just kind of hung out over here, and we were just doing a lot of people watching and just, talking amongst ourselves. And we could see he was kind of coming around. He was getting closer. And so like, I didn't go and stalk him around the room. I thought, oh, he'll eventually get to us. And then like, we were the last people that he got to. And right as he was getting to us, then like the VIP organizer was like, oh, well, it's time to get going. So have a good night. So he was kicking everybody out. So we were like, well, that was weird. But I mean, he was very nice. So it was fine. I probably, like, knowing what I know now, and that it was maybe not exactly as advertised, I would not pay that much again, although they really were really good seats at the concert. And the seats next to me weren't even purchased. We must have been the last people that bought tickets, because there were like 4 empty seats next to me. So that was nice. We had a little room. He was full of really entertaining stories, very good song delivery. So if you have the chance to see his current tour, which is called Legal Immigrant, I highly recommend it. He's on stage with a piano player, a drummer, a trumpet player, and a cellist. All of which are excellent musicians, and just the group of them do a wonderful job. So it was a really enjoyable evening. The end of it was super weird. My husband stole a LaCroix out of the mini fridge that we suspect was only for the entertainers, but that was his justification, was that we didn't get to see Alan. We didn't really get to talk to Alan Cumming for very long. So now he's addicted to LaCroix. So that was the first little part of my story. So that was why I wasn't going to publish an episode until after that concert, because I thought, well, this will be something fun to talk about, so I'll just wait and record on Monday when we get home. But it was not to be, because, so that concert was on a Friday. The day before the concert, Thursday, we have been not casually, like we've been seriously looking at houses for probably 4 months or so. We've done it a few different times in the past 10 years, but we have never found anything that we like more than our current house. Our current house is missing a couple things that we will never have. Like, I can't just remodel this house to have these things, but our current house really is very nice, and it does meet most of our needs. So it will take a very special situation to get us to move. So Thursday night, I look at the Realty website, and I see that there is a new house that just came on the market. It's for sale by owner, and it really looks pretty nice. Actually, I think my husband had seen it first and had told me, like, you got to look at this house. So we both looked at it, and we were both like, yeah, I think I really like this house. So I emailed her Thursday night, and I think it was either Thursday night or Friday morning that we spoke, and I think I explained to her that we were going out of town, and I was very interested in seeing her house, and so she let me come over that day. So my husband came home from work early on Friday because we were going to go to the concert, so we both went to see the house. And we're walking around the house, and the more we see, the more we really like the house. So the whole way to Chicago, the whole way back, we were talking about it. We were like making lists. We had this chart that like had a bunch of different categories, and we would say like, here's how much we like each of these little different categories about the house, and here's how much we imagine we would like a house if we built it, and here's the multiplier that says how important each of these categories are to us. Can you tell I'm married to an accountant? So we had these two lists. We multiplied all the scores out, and the build list won over the house that we had been looking at. And we both looked at that and we went, nope, that's wrong. So in the end, like, and this happens sometimes, like you figure it out, or like somebody says to you like, no, I don't think that's the right decision. And then you go, nope. Now I know that I'm right because you've said that, and like that triggered in me like, no, she's wrong. So sometimes you just need to hear someone else's opinion, or in our case, this list's opinion of what we want. And we both went, nope, that's not what I want. So we thought we were having a really hard time deciding. And in the end, we were like, nope, we want to put in an offer on this house. So that's what we did. We went back on Sunday. So we came home Saturday night. We went back on Sunday and brought our kids to the house, and we had them drive separately so that we could get rid of them and we could sit down and negotiate with the person selling the house, because this was for a sale by owner, and we weren't exactly sure how to go about, like, how she wanted us to submit an offer. So we got rid of the kids. They both liked it. We got rid of them. We said to the woman, hey, we really like this house. We would like to make you an offer. How would you like us to do that? Do you want us to write something down? I think the first question we asked her was, we have not been working with a realtor. Would you be open to us having a realtor? And she was like, nope, I really don't want you to. We tried to price our house with the idea that we would not be paying any realtor fees. I get that. It's a house where the realtor fees would probably be in the ballpark of like $20,000. So, like, I get it. I get it. If they're a person, if they're people that can do the advertising, can do the showings, they really just need someone to do the paperwork. $20,000 is a lot of money to pay somebody to do your paperwork. So I was okay with not having a realtor. And so they said they were using a real estate lawyer. So we said, okay, that's fine. We'll use a real estate lawyer. So we all sat down and we kind of hashed out, here's what we would want. We said, we offered our price. We put in, we wrote down the sort of contingencies, home inspection. We need to sell our house. There were a few things like that we wrote down. And then we talked about, like, what things stay with the house, there was a chandelier that she really wanted to take with her. So we said that was fine, wrote that down. We thought that we really had agreed upon a plan. So she was going to send this written list that we made to her lawyer. He was supposed to make a contract. We were going to sign it. Easy peasy, right? So we were on board. I told this woman, we have not, our house isn't on the market. We were waiting because we really didn't think that we were going to find something. So we were waiting till we found something, but I will have my house ready and on the market in 2 weeks. And my husband was like, maybe 3 weeks. I don't know. It's going to take a while. And I was like, nope, 2 weeks. I got it. I know what needs to be done. It's a lot, but I'm going to call in the reinforcements, which is my mom, which, if anybody has a very healthy and active mom like I do, you know how lucky you are. So I knew I had to call in the reinforcements to help me with the yard. But everything else, I was like, I am healthy. I am capable. My business kind of has a lull in the summer, so that worked out really well. I have 2 able-bodied teenagers, one of which is 15, so she's not quite old enough to have a regular, like, part-time job. And my 17-year-old has not been getting a lot of hours this summer, so he's got some time on his hands. So I was like, the 3 of us together, plus my husband said he could take one of those weeks off of work. So, that combination, we were going to have it ready in 2 weeks. So that's what we did. We worked for 2 weeks, almost straight. I think I took one evening-ish off to go to knit night. And then there was one of those Saturdays, my husband and I went to a wedding for about, 3/4 of a day. So out of those 2 weeks, that was really the only time we weren't working pretty hard on the house. But we got it done. Now, in the meantime, these people selling the house had sent us the contract from their lawyer. It looked a little one-sided. Like, it was very protective of the sellers. It was not at all protective of the buyer. It didn't give the buyer a lot of outs if tests came back and we didn't like what the test said. There really wasn't any ability for us to say, okay, no, we don't want this house after all. So we sent it back and we said, we're going to need some things changed. Anyway, it turned into a 2-week, it was a situation. I'm not going to bore you with all the craziness. Now, in their defense, these people have a 2-month-old baby. So it's a difficult time for them to be making a big life decision like this. So I tried to keep that in mind at every time that we interacted. I wouldn't want to sell my house when I had a 2-month-old baby. Like, that's not where my mind would be. But, to each his own. So anyway, towards the end of the 2 weeks, my house actually ended up going online with the For Sale by Owner website a few days early, because I had a friend who told me that it took about a week for the site's called Zillow. So it took about a week for Zillow to approve a listing. I think I put it up on Monday or Tuesday, and by Thursday it was up. So I was expecting I'd have till Monday or Tuesday of the next week, but it was up in just about 3 days. So that went faster than I thought, but it turned out to be okay because I was getting a lot of interest. I already had 3 showings scheduled for the very first day that it was supposed to be on the market. And we had planned with the sellers of this other house to sit down on Monday and sign the contract. So it seemed like everything was coming together. And then Monday morning, I get a text from them. We need more time because we are still working things out on our buying end. And by the way, this is like, now they're on to like the 4th situation of like, they talked about building, and then no, we're going to look at this house, and oh, now we have this other house. Oh, and now we found our dream house. And so like, I don't know why they had their house on the market before they really knew where they were going, but that was the situation. They didn't present it to us in that way. They had really presented it to us as like, we're building and we know what we're doing, and we will move out into a condo if that's what needs to happen. So it seemed like when we first talked to them that they had their act together. The more we talked over these couple weeks, and certainly this day we were supposed to sign the contract, it really became very apparent that they had no idea what they were doing. So that morning I said, okay, I had showing scheduled on Tuesday, tomorrow. So I just need to know, are you selling us your house or are you not? Because I can't in good conscience show my house to people when I'm not selling my house. So, well, I don't know. And I very much got the impression that like, she did not want to sell us the house, but also didn't want to tell me that, or, thought I'd be mad at her, which, I mean, after all, everything that happened, like, I'm not happy. Like, we're fine. We didn't sell our house. We're not homeless, but we went through a lot of work for no reason. So anyway, she didn't call me back that day. Finally, I think it was like 7:00 that night or something. I finally got a text from her that was like, well, actually, we've decided that we can't sell the house because we don't know what we're doing, yada, yada. So I called her up just to make sure that she understood that, like, once we said that we were not buying the house, that, like, don't call me up tomorrow and say, oh, well, now we know what we're doing, and now we want you to buy the house. Like I wanted her to understand that once I call off these showings, like, that's going to be all for us. So I called her up, made that clear. She said she understood that they really were done. Fine. So I call up all the people, and I'm talking about like 10 or 12 people, because I didn't just have the 3 showings. I had 10 more people that had been asking me questions. A lot of them were realtors that said that they had clients that had asked them about my house. So there were a lot of phone calls to make. People were generally very understanding, so it was okay. But I mean, who wants to make all those calls? So my husband and I very quickly got comfortable with the idea of building. So by Wednesday of that week, I was meeting with a house designer. On my way home from that appointment, my phone rang, and guess who it was? So this is a day and a half after we'd had that phone call where I said, if we're done, we're done. So she was calling me to say, well, actually, we've decided to put in a higher offer on our dream house, and would you reconsider buying our house? So I was like, I mean, like, my husband called it. Like, he knew this was going to happen. And I think I knew it was going to happen too. But I was I just, at that point, on Monday, I just needed to be able to say, like, this is happening or this isn't happening. Quit jerking me around, lady. And so, like, I did not allow myself to entertain the idea that this would happen, but it did. So she calls us, and I said to her, listen, we still really like your house. I don't know if we're going to be able to talk about buying it again because, like, you've put us in a bad position. Now we've called up all these people, told them that we're not selling, so you want me to call them all again, like, within the same week and be like, oh, actually, we are going to sell. So it's kind of making me look like an idiot. So I told her, we can't talk until you have a signed contract. So if you have a signed contract that says, here's the house I'm buying, I know what the price is, we've told them that, you know, we're going to buy the house, and that you have decided in yourself that if something falls through with this house you want to buy, that you are still okay moving out of your house. So even if the dream house burns down or you find it's fully infested with black mold, that you are still going to be okay with us moving into your house, because once we sell our house, we don't have anywhere to go. So we need to know that your house is where we're going to go. So I said, if you have a signed contract, call me back and we can talk. So 2 more days later, I didn't get a phone call because this lady she is not a direct communicator. I get a text and it's, actually, we've decided it's not a good time for us to move, and so never mind. So the moral of this story is, if you walk into an open house and there's a 2-month-old baby there, just go, just run, just go the other way. I was gonna say watch out for sale by owner people, but we might be for sale by owner people once we sell our house, and we totally have our act together. Like, we know what real estate lawyer we would use, we know what contract we would use, and by the way, it's very fair to sellers and buyers. We have our act together. These people did not, for a number of reasons, and we got sucked into their vortex of chaos for these couple of weeks. So that was all very unfortunate, because my kids and I won't say we wasted 2 weeks, because certainly, like, we will enjoy our very clean house and the, things that we've fixed or, paint touch up, that kind of stuff. Like, we really did do some things to make our house a little bit nicer. My husband did a lot of, fixing, and he, painted the entire basement. We hadn't done that since we moved in 20 years ago. So it certainly, it has brightened up the place. And we are now in the position where if we do find a great house, it would only take us some packing and some cleaning to, have the house ready to show. So that's good. So I won't say we wasted 2 weeks, but good Lord, we worked so hard for those 2 weeks, and that was obviously very unnecessary. So, and I dragged my mom down here to help me with my landscaping, so that was unnecessary, given everything that happened. But that is why I've fallen off the planet. So there's my half-hour story of what happened to me. So anyway, let's talk about some crafts, shall we? I will show you a couple things. So anyway, on my birthday or the day after, it must have been the day after, because I realized, oh, we're going to this concert with Ravinia. Whatever shall I wear? So I had this fabric right here. See that dress? I had that fabric in my stash for a few months, and I knew I was going to make a dress out of it, but I hadn't gotten around to it. And look at my clean house. I mean, look at those floors. Those floors never shine like that. I mean, look at that. Anyway, beautiful dress. This dress, so I made it to wear to the concert. So I used a existing kind of tunic thing that I have to make the pattern. And I'll show you. I have a pattern drafting podcast. I want to say it's number 27, 28, something like that. I probably did it in February, March, April, somewhere in there. But I drafted this in the exact way that I described in that podcast. So this is just a front piece. So you fold the fabric in half. You put this on the fold line, and so when you cut it, then you have unfold it. You have a whole front, and then I have a whole back piece. And I just cut them out of wrapping paper because this is the kind of wrapping paper that has this grid on the back. See? Oh, so it makes it very easy to cut straight lines. And, I mean, wrapping paper's big, so you can make a large size pattern. So anyway, I used this, and the dress is certainly longer than the tunic it was based off of, but it's easy to follow like the line, because usually a tunic will flare out at the bottom. And if you just keep following those flare lines, you can just make it as long as you want. So this dress goes about, it's like a few inches under my knee. Do you like the white lining kind of sticking out of the bottom there? So I don't know exactly what happened with this. When I made it, I am 100% sure that I washed the lining and I washed the exterior fabric, the top fabric. And I don't know. So after I made the dress, it looked perfect. The lining was slightly shorter than the exterior fabric. After I washed it the first time, and I'm talking about hand washing it in a bucket of lukewarm water. Like it wasn't hot water. It might have even been cold water, but it was certainly not hot. I don't know why the exterior fabric shrunk like crazy, like it did. But it really shrunk. And I have no idea why that happened. So right now the lining is hanging out of the bottom. Now, I actually don't mind how that looks. Like when you wear it, it kind of looks a little bit roughly, like there's a little underskirt that's kind of poking out. And I thought that was kind of cute. But unfortunately, it didn't shrink uniformly. So in some spots, it hangs out more than in other spots. So that makes it look a little, that makes it look more like a mistake than like something cute that I did. So I do need to rehem or, cut off and rehem that lining because it looks pretty silly. But that's the only thing that went wrong with this. So I'll put in a picture of me wearing the dress because I thought I won't have enough room here to really show you very well. So here's the dress on me. And I thought it fit really well in the bodice. It's just an A-line dress, so like past the boob, it just flares out. It is a little on the loose side, so I don't feel like I can wear it as like a real dressy dress because it's a more casual style than that. And unfortunately, I did realize that with this they're both knit fabrics, the outside and the lining are knit fabrics, and they have no structure at all. So the armhole, I'll show you on the pattern here. The armhole, while it looks very structured here, and it looks like it would hit me exactly where it needed to, right? To keep my bra inside the dress. What actually happens is that this part of the arm that goes straight across while it's just sitting here as a pattern, when you wear it, this falls down like this because there's no structure to the fabric. So instead of having an armhole that stops right here, it doesn't stop until like way down here. So my bra hangs out. So fortunately, I can wear the same fancy bra that I bought to go with my metamorphic dress, which has the same problem. I just bought a bra that kind of looks like a purple tank top. When it's worn underneath something, you wouldn't necessarily know that you're looking at a bra over here because it's just purple tank top looking. So since this is a purple dress, it goes fine. So when you see me in this dress in public, you're looking at my bra right there under my arm, but whatever. So anyway, that's the only thing that now I know that, and now I can compensate for that when I'm using unstructured knit fabrics. Now, if I had cut this out of cotton, then I wouldn't have that problem because the cotton would kind of like this. This is a knit fabric, but it has a lot of structure to it, and this does not fall down in the arm. Um, so you have to know what kind of fabrics you're working with. You have to know what they'll do once they get on your body. But overall, I was really pleased with the dress. And once I fix the lining, shorten that a little bit, it'll be lovely. So something else I made that was concert related is this cute little pouch. So this is a little ID pocket here, but I thought it would be, I don't know, ill-advised to have all my driver's license details on the internet. So here's my Costco card to show you how you can put an ID in this little pocket. And I used clear vinyl here. So this is, there's a window here. And then I made the pouch exactly big enough that you can fit a phone in here. Now I have a 6S SE. Is that what it is? I don't have one of those really big phones. If I had a different size phone, I would have just made the pouch a little bit bigger, but as it was, I didn't need that. So you could stick, a little bit of money in here. I think I had a chapstick in here when I used it recently, but I made this specifically for the concert because I wanted something where I could just have my, personal stuff with me and not have to worry about a purse all night. Because I did it because I didn't know what the club coming situation was going to be. If we were all like dancing all night, I didn't want to have to worry about where my purse was. So I made this. I modeled it off of like a Vera Bradley little purselet that my daughter has. Put a little key ring thing here on the end and, did a lobster clasp for the handle, giant neck handle thing. And probably if I did it again, I might make the handle a little bit shorter, but as it was fine. So anyway, that was pretty easy to make, and I just used a tutorial I found online, and I'll link that on the Trappings and Trinkets website where I put the show notes for this in case you want to make one of your own. So yeah, it was not difficult. This was a few hours of work. It was a pretty easy project. I think those were my only concert-related crafts. I didn't have any crafts during that couple weeks where we were intensely cleaning the house. I do have a shawl that I finished. Now this, I finished this so recently, last night, that I don't even have the ends woven in yet, but that's okay. You can still look at it. This is a groovy shawl, and my previous groovy shawl, I did a little knot on the ends like this. So it looked like that on the end. Jumper cables is the pattern writer for this pattern. And this is one that you might just wear as a little scarf, like so. Has this little sawtooth edge over here. And it just alternates stripes of stockinette and reverse stockinette. So it's a nice pattern to use for a fairly busy yarn. This is a variegated cashmere, or smushy with cashmere from Dream in Color. And I'm not sure it has a name. I think the name of this was like the color of the month for some month. May, maybe? I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I know that. But I don't know that this is a color that people can order. So apologies. It is a really nice colorway, but it's fairly busy. I wouldn't want to use this for something that's going to have much of a texture. So the stripes of stockinette and reverse stockinette were perfect. So this, I had been doing this in a couple weeks prior to my birthday. For some reason this summer I've just been like my knitting brain has just gone. Like I just need to do very simple knits because I have a lot of other stuff going on in my world right now. So I had been working on this at a few knit nights, and then I brought it with me when my husband and I went and saw the Mr. Rogers movie. If you've not seen the Mr. Rogers movie, you need to see it. It is so good, especially if you're a person that grew up watching Mr. Rogers as a kid. You will really like this movie. It's a really sweet movie about a man who obviously really wanted to be a force of good in the world. And it's a very stark contrast to a lot of other stuff going on in the world and that you're hearing about right now. So it was really a breath of fresh air. So I did bring this project with me to the movie theater because I thought I can finish this stockinette stripe while I'm watching that movie. Unfortunately, my ball of yarn or my cake of yarn fell and like rolled many aisles away from me at the slanted floor movie theater. And when I tried to pull on the yarn to get it back, it wasn't bringing the ball or the cake of yarn with it. I was just pulling the whole like 200 yards of yarn back up towards myself. And I was doing it all on the floor of the movie theater. And so like the yarn was like damp and it smelled like popcorn and it was disgusting. So I rolled that in a ball and then I kind of put it away for a couple weeks because I was too grossed out to finish it. I did sit and finish it last night. I just needed to like have a couple hours where I knew my hands were going to be full of movie theater floor, and that's fine. I just wouldn't eat anything. I wouldn't touch my face. I wouldn't get rabies or whatever. So I finished it last night. So this shawl will forever remind me of Mr. Rogers. Go see that movie. If it's not in the theater anymore, then rent it as soon as you can. Shall we do a bit of a bag tour? Some shameless self-promotion here, and then I'll show you projects of the future. So I've got some of each. So bags, new bags, and I apologize. I actually can't remember if I showed these at the end of the last podcast. So if you saw that one, but I think I finished them after that. So apologies. I hope I didn't already show you these. This is my favorite one from this new batch. It's owls. Owls. And it's like a blue paisley on the inside. So this one is a 400 gram size. So you could put a shawl in there. You could put some kids' clothes, a little sweater, a little baby dress. This one reminds me of Monet's Water Lilies. It's like a greenish with a little bit of blue. And it has flamingos on the inside. So this one's a 500 gram. This one is some very summery looking birds, some baby blue birds, and there's some coordinating baby blue fabric with yellow filigree, just like the bird's wings on the outside. I have this one with purple, red, and pink yarn balls, yarn skeins, and then the inside is different colored trees that coordinate with the skeins of yarn. And my last zipper bag is this very pretty cherry blossom pattern, and the inside is this more geometric little arrow pattern. So I really like a lot of those combinations myself. Most of the time, I buy fabric that I like myself. Sometimes I see something and I go, oh, somebody would really like this. Maybe not me necessarily, but somebody would. But most of those were fabrics I really liked. This one I also really like, and it has not been a big seller so far, so I don't know. I don't know why people with really good taste have not been shopping in my Etsy shop, but anywho, there are bags like this that are zipper pouches, and this one is a 300 little zippy pouch. This one is not interfaced because I made it purposely very crumbly so that you could put something in here, shove it in your purse, or put something in here that you would then put in a larger bag to put a couple projects together. And so they're not interfaced, so that means they're also a little less expensive than the regular zipper bags. And this one I also really like, and this one has also not been a big seller, so I don't know why. But look, I mean, there are people doing crafts like this lady is knitting. Yeah, this lady is beading. What's she doing? Oh, she's doing some sort of embroidery. And this lady up here is, I don't know what she's doing. She has a bunch of stuff like paints and beads. Is she doing beads? Beading? This person over here has no head, but she's making a quilt. So anyway, lots of different crafty ladies, and this has the pink lining, just like the little dress forms did. So many different types of, or different print combinations for my bags, and I am very excited about this. So let me share with you my new accordion needle cases. These have lots of slots, 7 large slots, in fact, to put circular needles. And it has these little slots, which you probably can't see very well until I stick my finger in there. So there's these slots where you put your needle tips for an interchangeable set, like that. And these are size so that you can put tips from size 4 all the way up to size 11, even keeping in mind that there's usually a 10 and a 10 and a half in a set. So like for my Knit Picks set, that's how many needle tips I have. So this will fit exactly those. And then lots of big pockets for your fixed circular needles, your cables that go with your interchangeable needle sets. And also, you like in the bigger pocket in the very back and in the front, you could put things like a pair of scissors, a needle gauge, your tape measure, your little thing of stitch markers. So you could really fit most of your needle collection, I would guess. And well, I don't know. I could fit my entire needle collection in this one. These are slightly varied sizes because needle tips come in slightly different sizes. So if you buy one, I would recommend messaging me and letting me know how long your needle tips are, just so that you can make sure that the pattern you picked out is going to fit your needle tips very well. Or if it's one like this one, I didn't completely sew this together. See, this is still very flappy because I wanted to be able to customize this to whatever size a person's needle tips are. So I have this one is customizable, this pattern is customizable, and this one is also customizable. So if you wanted to make it a double pointed needle case instead of an interchangeable set case, then for those 3 patterns, I can do that because I haven't sewn them completely together yet. So anyway, there's lots of different patterns, and these cases are super handy. So I've been using my sample case because, as it turned out, I wanted to add one more pocket so that I could fit all the needle tips in here. So I'm using the slightly undersized one to fit my stuff, and I have a lot in here. You can see I've got lots of tips, got my needle sizer in the back, and I must have, I don't know, a dozen fixed circular needles in here. And this has a little bit less space than the needle cases that I'm actually selling. Oops, got my got my tape measure in there too. So this is a very nice little case to have because you can put everything in there and just throw this in your knitting bag, and it's not that big. Like compared to I'll show you against a 400 gram bag, the size comparison. So here's your 400 gram bag. Oh, your needle case is only this big, and it's kind of skinny, and you can throw that in there and still have lots and lots of room left to put your yarn and your project in there. So see, lots of room left. Okay, there's the shameless self-promotion. Now for projects of the future. And a project at long last. This is one that I've had in my mind for a long time. So you might know of the website Spoonflower, the website of all the wonderful fabric. And you might recognize this if you've paid attention to me for very long, because I made a batch of bags out of this rock icon fabric. I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago, that I loved, and I kept one of them for myself, and I use it all the time. In fact, it's probably right up here. There it is. Oh, it's full of a project up there on the top shelf. Anywho, so I love that bag, and I was like, I love this bag so much. I want a dress out of this same fabric. So I finally ordered my dress fabric, and I love it. I went with their modern jersey fabric, which is a knit fabric. It is not super, it's not super thin, but it is definitely drapey, and it's thin enough that I will be very comfortable doing a lined dress and wearing it in the summertime. So you could also make leggings out of this fabric. I think it would make good leggings. You could use it for shirts, dresses. I probably wouldn't use it for like a blanket. It wouldn't be great for that because it is thinner. But anyway, I love it. And I'm going to make a metamorphic dress out of it. I have altered the pattern so that there won't be tons and tons of room under my arm. So hopefully I've brought the armpit up high enough. And this is going to be another one of those fabrics that the armhole is just going to go straight down instead of going across here. So I need to figure that in when I'm cutting the bodice. For my other side, I am using this black and gray tie-dye. So that will be the back part, and this will be the front of the dress. So it will kind of stick out the bottom like that. Adorable, right? So I cannot wait to have my rock star dress. And then while I was at Joann's looking for what my other side of fabric is going to be, I also found this, and I loved it. And so I think I'm going to use this to make another dress like this purple one. This is a slightly more structured fabric though. And actually, now that I say that, I'm not 100% sure. This is a heavier material than the purple. So I'm not 100% sure that I'll do a sleeveless dress. I don't know. It's not super thick. So maybe I will. Maybe I'll walk on the wild side. Anyway, this one, I could turn this into a more dressy dress though. So we'll see. Projects of the future. I'm not sure that one will get done right away, but I can't wait to throw this in the laundry so that I can cut it maybe as early as tomorrow, because I want my rockstar dress right now. So before I go, 2 other quick recommendations. I finished a book called Calypso by David Sedaris. He is a very funny writer. If you haven't read David Sedaris yet, then I'm sorry. I don't know what you've been doing. I don't know what books you've been reading, but you got to read him. Calypso was very funny. His last couple books, I think, have been I feel like sometimes there's a line, like there's funny, and then like there's funny when it just goes off the rails, and then it's just weird. And I felt like his last couple books just were not hitting me in the same humor spot that books before that had. So my favorite books of his are probably from the early, like around the year 2000. He had one called Me Talk Pretty One Day. I think that's my favorite David Sedaris book. And he had another one called Naked. There was another one a little bit later called Dress Your Family in Corduroy and Denim. So all 3 of those books I really enjoyed. And I mean, he is so funny. Like, I'm not a person who, like, if I'm watching a movie or a television show and there's funny things happening or jokes or whatever, I don't usually laugh out loud. The only thing that will get me to laugh out loud is if it's unexpected funny. Like, if there's a joke and I can see the punchline coming, well, I can appreciate, like, oh, that was funny, but I don't laugh out loud. It's just if you catch me off guard, then I do laugh out loud. But these books are so funny. Those first 3 that I was telling you about, like, those are the kind of books that, like, I would be in bed at night with my husband asleep next to me, and I would be reading, and I would be like, like, trying not to wake him up because I would laugh so much out loud at these books that I was reading. Calypso did have a few very, very funny spots, and the whole thing was quite entertaining, but it was not quite as unexpectedly, outwardly humorous as the other one. So if you want a moderately humorous book, you should get Calypso. If you want something that's going to have you rolling on the floor, I would recommend one of those earlier books, especially Me Talk Pretty One Day. The second recommendation I have for you, I feel like everybody has been recommending, so I apologize if you've already heard this from 400 people. But there was a comedy special from a woman called Hannah Gadsby that was put out on Netflix earlier in July. And it was so well done. It really reminded me a lot of another comedy special that I recommended in the spring or last winter. It was a while ago. But that one was from Hassan Minhaj, and it was called Homecoming King. This one was in that same vein of like very entertaining, lots of very funny material, but also a very serious underlying kind of story to the whole thing. So if you haven't seen both of those comedy specials on Netflix, you need to do that tonight. Like, both of those are so worth your while that I really hope that everybody watches them. So Hassan Minhaj, Homecoming King, and the new one is called, it's called Nanette, and it is by the comedian, she's an Australian woman, named Hannah Gadsby. So those are my recommendations. You've heard all my stories. Now we're all caught up. All right. So I hope that you have had a wonderful month or whatever it's been since I've seen you last. Probably, I mean, it's summer in the Northern Hemisphere, so I bet a lot of you are on the crazy train, just like I am, maybe for different reasons. Maybe you have young kids who are home from school and you don't have the same amount of time as you normally do, or, who knows? For whatever reason, I hope the craziness has not gotten to you too much. I hope you do have a little bit of time to do some things that you enjoy doing, and I hope that I will see you back here probably in a couple of weeks. In some places, school is already starting. I saw in Indiana, North Carolina, I think, is where I know somebody whose kids just started last week. I think Indiana maybe starts this week in some places. The schools in my town actually start next week, which is super early for, like, usually my kids would start around like the 20-something. And it seems like every year that's gone backwards a couple days. And so this year, my daughter's first day of school is the 14th of August, which is crazy. That's like at least a week before normal school starts. So I don't know what that's all about. Hopefully she doesn't get like a month off at Christmas. And then this year we have been preparing, and we are just about ready to release our oldest child into the wilds of college. So yesterday I took him for a big shopping trip, and we got all the college sends you a list of like, here's some things that you might want to bring to college with you. You might want sheets for your bed. You might want a mattress pad. You might want a bowl to keep in your room, or a cup. So we went and did the whole thing, and he is real close to being ready to go. I posted a picture on Facebook of the trunk of my car with all this stuff in it, saying like, oh, we're about ready for college. And there was a little like baby ironing board that, you put on a desk or a bed or whatever, and you can use it to iron. I am under no delusion that my kid is going to start ironing his clothes all of a sudden, but he looked at the list from the college and he was like, yeah, I should probably bring an ironing board with me. I should probably bring an iron. So who am I to be like, no, I don't believe you're going to use that iron. I did tell him he gets my old iron and I get the new iron. So, I mean, we're not going crazy just throwing brand new irons at this person who is, I'm not sure, ever ironed anything in his whole life. I'm going to have to give him a lesson in that before he goes out the door. But he's very close. That is 2 weeks from today is the day we take him to move in. So it's starting to feel really real. I mean, it started to feel real when I paid his first semester tuition at the end of July, but now it feels even more real. So we're getting there. All right. Thanks for hanging in there with all my stories today. And I hope that you have a wonderful couple weeks. I hope you don't enter into any ill-fated real estate deals like I did. And I will see you soon. Bye.